paper, which, of course, the points of disagreement are very few, and so I will limit to a couple of things. One is the question of markups as independent variables. I think Tony, while he pointed out the difficulty which can be found in treating such markups or such markups as independent variables, at the end of the paragraph he seems to leave the door open to the possibility of treating them as independent variables. Now, the mere fact that he acknowledges that there will be, in general, interdependence between them seems to me sufficient to exclude the possibility to treat them as independent variables. So I would like to have a clarification. The other point in which I have some disagreement with Tony is the question of the use of the concept of intertemporal budget constraint. I don't think it is a general concept. It seems to me an unnecessary indulgence in the use of a concept which is typical of the modern formulation of general intertemporal equilibrium, but that in a different theoretical context, not necessarily, seems to me, it has to be used. On the mere basis of observation, we see that, for instance, it is generally the case of governments which have even huge stocks of debt since periods very long. So no evidence that any such constraint has ever operated. But even for the private subject, I would say that in general, the firms are structurally in the position of debtors towards the banking system, for example. Even a single firm can be structurally in debt with banking if they are able to pay interest regularly. So this is the point that I think Fabio Petri made yesterday in another session. So I don't think that the operation of such a constraint shows itself as an evidence. From even on theoretical grounds, the relevance of this notion, especially when it is applied to the government, is, according to me, objectionable. And it's a thesis here to note that as soon as one admits that the time span taken into consideration cannot be but infinite, it does not make any sense to establish a date into which the debt should be zero. The constraint, this is my view, the constraint actually resolves into nothing. Because you can postpone indefinitely the time at which a change in policy able to satisfy the constraint would be planned. So I don't think that we have to believe in the necessity to have such a constraint. And what is worse, in my view, is again with respect to fiscal policy, that this condition is actually used in order to argue that fiscal policy must be much more restrictive than it is in phases. So while from the theoretical point of view the condition is empty, in my view, in fact it is applied in order to support a view of economic policy which is quite restrictive.
Just a brief comment. On leaving the door open a little bit to markups, I think I was just making a strictly logical concession, but I will check it. I don't want to be misunderstood on that. But the other issue I think is very simple to resolve. when I refer to intertemporal budget constraints, I mean them in the soft sense. And I think you persuade me by your reaction to make this explicit in any revised version. So I don't mean a no Ponzi finance restriction. Someone mentioned this earlier yesterday. I think it may have been Fabio. It's true, this is far too restrictive. So what do I mean by intertemporal budget constraints? I mean people have to meet their legal obligations. That is, in each time period, income must be equal to expenditure in the usual sense plus any debt obligations that accrue in that period. This is a very soft sense, and it's entirely consistent with everything you've just said. But we can talk about your paper tomorrow. I'll be on that stage too.
That's the budget constraint, not the intertemporal. To me, what you just said is that's the budget constraint.
So you think I'm misusing the language?
It's not an intertemporal, but you're just saying that what you can spend net of interest payments is what you got as an income.
No, I'll check that. If I'm misusing the language,
We can, I think, very quick.
No, just very quick. Even in the weaker sense Laval is saying, one must remember that in a monetary economy, everybody spends twice. The level of relative debt remains the same. So even the weaker sense doesn't.
All banks do loan to everybody twice as much as they did yesterday. The degree of debt is the same, and the income is twice. So there is no concern. Aggregate.
I'd love to talk about that.
Anyway, we can talk to Professor Lawa.